Hello everybody and welcome back to another update video. Now you might have noticed I haven't really been doing my weekly recap as per normal, and that mainly just comes down to the fact that there wasn't much content being released beyond league fixes and stuff like that. Now with that said though, we got a really interesting piece of content proposed yesterday, which is called Combat Achievements. Now Combat Achievements is something that has been a high level concept for a long time now, but finally they are actually going to propose it in a poll blog, and it is way more extensive than I ever thought it would be. There is just a lot more to it. Alright guys, let's get started, but before, as always, if you do enjoy these videos, I really appreciate it if you leave the video a like. It really does help my video get recommended to other people who maybe haven't seen my channel before. Okay, so what exactly are combat achievements? Well, you can think of them kind of like an achievement diary, but only for PvM. Now, combat achievements will force you to kill various bosses and monsters throughout Gielinor, all the while completing different tasks within your achievement diary. Now, once you've completed all of the tasks within a given tier, you're going to be given a reward. Now, unlike regular achievement diaries that have 4 tiers, the combat achievements will have 6. Now, they show a bit of a mock-up UI here that shows easy, medium, hard, elite, master, and grandmaster, as well as a bit of a PvM profile, which I think is really awesome. It shows stuff like your total boss kill count, the amount of tasks that you completed, your top boss, your top skilling boss, and your top raid. Now here are some example requirements for all of the different tiers. Now for the easy tier, you need something like base 60 stats with 50 Slayer, which is a fairly high requirement when it comes to an easy task, but when you think about PvM, there isn't really much you can do at very low levels, so that kind of makes sense. Mediums is base 70 combat stats, 69 Slayer, and Monkey Bandits 2. For hards, you need base 80 combat stats and 85 Slayer. For the elite, you need base 90s with 91 Slayer. For master, you need 90 plus with 95 Slayer, which means every Slayer boss unlocked. And for grandmaster, you'll need maxed combat stats, all the previous requirements, experience in all PvM activities within the game. This tier will take content that's already the hardest in the game and push it further with different restrictions and stuff like that. Now their tagline here is, if you thought the Infernal Cape was the difficulty limit, think again. Now PvM achievements are both to add in more content, goals, and interesting achievements for higher level players, but also a really good way to introduce lower level players to PvM and bossing. Now as far as the different tasks that you can get, here is a mock-up of the UI. Now it looks like they're taking a lot of this from the Trailblazer League system, which is awesome because that dev time was even more effective. Now at the top, it'll show you all of the potential tasks to do. You can filter by tier, by the type of the task, by the monster, and by if you've completed it or not. Now the majority of tasks are going to be designed to do them solo, but there are some exceptions to this, as the content itself is usually designed for groups. For example, most of the Chambers of Xeric and the Theater of Blood tasks will be completable in a group. We can also see here that there's going to be an overview of each boss, showing key information like the max hit, the attack style, immunity, stuff like that, as well as the requirements and their potential drops. Just overall kind of useful information that was previously not actually available anywhere within the client itself, although there is a link to the wiki, which I think is going to be much more useful for pretty much everyone. Now moving on here are some examples of the different categories of tasks that you could be assigned. Now one of the most simple task types is just purely kill count. It's as simple as killing the boss a certain number of times. For example, killing the giant mole 50 times would be a task. Killing it 5,000 times though might be a master task, who knows. Next up here we have killing a boss at a certain speed. For example, killing Vorkath in less than 1 minute and 10 seconds. I would imagine there'd be easy level speed tasks and then eventually master level ones as well. For example, killing Zulrah in less than 50 seconds could be an elite task or something like that, but killing Zulrah in less than 1.5 minutes might be a medium or easy. There will be categories for killing bosses with a restricted item set. For example, killing Callisto without using Verax would be a task potentially. Now the opposite of that will also be true, for example, killing a boss with a specific item. For example, killing Venenatus with a magic short bow. That sounds awful, oh my god. You'll be there for half an hour because Venenatus has such high defense. There'll be a category for killing a boss without taking damage. Now that doesn't really mean taking no damage overall, but no damage from a certain mechanic. For example, killing Zulrah without taking any damage from the venom clouds. Much easier than taking no damage at all, which would be very challenging. Now there is another category called area restrictions. Now an example for that would be killing General Gridor 15 times without leaving the room. So it really comes down to how efficiently you can kill the boss, taking the least amount of damage to get the highest kill count in one trip. Now at the bottom, there's going to be more tailored challenges for every boss, and it could be different for each one. For example, killing Skatizo with none of the 4 pillars alive could be a boss specific task. Now that is just a general overview of the different categories. We don't really know what the individual tasks are going to look like yet, but they'll fit into some of those categories. Alright, so now for rewards. Now when they initially pulled combat achievements, I actually didn't really think there were going to be any rewards, but in the end, I think it's good that there are at least something. Now the rewards for combat achievements are actually pretty substantial. They're not simply cosmetic items or token experience rewards, there are quite a few useful proposed rewards here. Now first up here we have XP lamps. Now this is similar to a regular achievement diary. Now I'm presuming you're only going to get one of these per completed tier. Now for example, completing all of the easy tasks would get you a 5,000 experience lamp reward. Now that would scale up all the way to Grandmaster, which would give you a 50,000 experience reward in a skill of course above level 70. Now considering how challenging some of the combat achievements are going to be, I think a one-off experience reward is fine and not too impactful, but it's still going to give an incentive to complete the diaries. I'm going to imagine that completing the Grandmaster tier of the combat achievements is going to be a lot more difficult than completing an elite diary for Varrock or something. Now the second reward here is a proposed increase to the drop chance of clue scrolls. Now after completing the easy tier, you're going to get a 5% increase on easy clues. Medium tier is going to give you a 5% increase on medium clues. Completing the hard tier gives a 5% increase on hard clues, and of course the elite tier will give you a 5% increase on elite clues. Now keep in mind this will not affect impling jars or clue caskets. That's definitely an interesting reward, and 5% isn't that high, but I imagine it could still change things quite a bit. Now next up here we have something called Like a Boss Upgrade. Now within the Slayer shop you are able to unlock the Like a Boss Slayer ability. Now essentially the way it works is you do have a chance of getting a boss assignment, and unlike any other Slayer task, you're allowed to pick how many you want to do, with a current maximum of 35. Now by completing the different combat achievements, you'll be able to increase the potential maximum amount. For example, at the easy tier, you're able to add on an extra 2, bringing it up to 37. Scaling up all the way to the Grand Master tier, which allows you to add on an extra 15, for a maximum total of 50. That is actually a fairly substantial increase and would definitely affect bosses like Zulrah and maybe any of the godwars bosses, because that would actually increase the amount you could do on task a substantial amount. Next up here we have simply a Slayer Helm recolor, which is just a cosmetic item. There'll be a different one for the Elite tier, the Master tier, and the Grandmaster tier. Okay, so next up here we have our first item, which is not named yet, but it's going to be an accuracy-based offhand. We'd like to reward willing adventurers with a new offhand blade that excels in providing melee accuracy. I'm not really sure about this one because we already have defenders and they are unlocked at a pretty low to mid level. I'm not really sure where these would fit in. I guess maybe they give more accuracy than strength bonus. Obviously, if they devalue defenders in any way, then this probably isn't going to be a really good update. But if they're positioned somewhere below defenders, then it's a very small time frame where they'd be useful. Now next up here we have some proposed new teleport locations. One to the godwars dungeon and one to Mor Ul Rek. Now the godwars dungeon teleport I imagine is going to be kind of controversial. So the teleport location would be beside the large boulder before you even enter the godwars dungeon, so it's definitely not all the way in there yet. Now for completing only the easy tier you can get 3 daily teleports. The medium tier is going to be 5 daily teleports, and the hard elite master and grandmaster all going to include unlimited teleports. Now it seems like this is unlocked at a very low level. You can get easy tier pretty quickly. And for a lot of players, I think 3 daily teleports would already be enough, so I think this is definitely unlocked at too low of a level. That would be my opinion, of course, anyway. Now also we have Mor Ul Rek, which interestingly actually has a higher requirement to unlock the teleport. You actually need the elite diary to get any teleports. That would be 3 daily teleports. The master tier would give you 5 daily teleports, and the grandmaster tier would give you an unlimited amount of teleports. Now kind of interesting because teleporting to Mor Ul Rek isn't particularly useful, or definitely not as useful as godwars, yet it has a much higher requirement. I could foresee that being changed a little bit as well. Now the next category here all revolves around improvements to the godwars dungeon. There's quite a few different things here, all of them will be locked behind a tier of the combat achievements. Now the first one here is a bit of a perk, and that would be a reduced kill count requirement to enter the God Wars area. Now if you have completed the hard tier, your kill count requirement will be reduced by 2, scaling all the way up to Grandmaster, which at the top will reduce your kill count requirement by 10. A fairly substantial amount, but in the end more of an ease of access change and nothing too major. Next up here we have increased ecumenical key drop rates. Normally an ecumenical key is dropped at a rate of 1 out of 60, although that does change a bit if you have more than one. With the hard tier that would be reduced to 1 out of 55, scaling all the way up to Grandmaster, which reduced it to 1 out of 40. Okay, now the big one here, boss chamber instances. Now the improvements for specifically Ironman at God Wars Dungeon is going to be locked behind the combat achievements. Now the proposal here is to add in new boss instances for God Wars, but only starting after you've completed the hard tier of the combat achievements. And they are not going to be free. At the hard tier, it's going to cost you 200,000 coins and an ecumenical key. Now that is very interesting because getting an ecumenical key is going to be so annoying. You can neither buy them or stack them up in your bank, as they do have a limit to how many you can get. Also, they do require you to go into the wilderness, which means that is kind of gating out hardcore Ironman. So I think having a requirement for an ecumenical key is very strange. Anyway, it will scale up to Grandmaster, which will reduce the cost to 125,000 coins and an ecumenical key. Definitely still fairly expensive though. Okay, next up here we have a reskin for the Dragon Hunter crossbow. I'm really happy to see that. There's a white one, a Vorkath looking one, and a black one. To unlock these, you will need the hard tier and the elite tier, as well as access to a King Black Dragon head or a Vorkath head. Finally here at the bottom, there's going to be a new PVM challenge that is going to be released alongside it. Once again, it's going to involve the Tazar area and specifically Jad. Now there's going to be different tiers to the challenge, but the highest tier is going to involve trying to fight 6 different Jads at once. Now the reward for that is going to be a transmog for the Jad pet. Probably at this point is going to be pretty prestigious. Okay, so that is it. A very big proposal for the new combat achievements. Overall, I do like it. I think it's going to be a really good framework for both the new players and existing players. It's going to be a really easy set of goals to follow. And I think that's great. Some of the rewards probably need to be tweaked a bit, but they're getting a lot of good feedback on Reddit. So I imagine some of the rewards are going to be changed a little bit. And overall, I'm pretty happy about the content. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. As always, let me know what you think below of the combat achievements. I'm always really curious to know what you guys think. Now before I go here, I want to give a massive thank you to one of my newest subscribers, James Luft, who just subscribed at the Dragon tier of YouTube membership, joining Brad Sings, Tizdoc Bunny, Revolver Ocelot, and Kush Patel, all at the Dragon tier. That's amazing, guys. Thank you so much. And also a huge shout out to Luke Kayser, Base Titch, Heathen, OSRS, and Double Talk for your continued support. If you guys are looking for an additional way to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member is an awesome way to do so. You can become immortalized in some of my videos, get access to my video release schedule, as well as get a custom role in my Discord channel. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you next time.